A truly Canadian icon now stands tall in India's capital, a rock-steady symbol of Canada's push to deepen relationships, both business and personal, with India.
Commercial relationships without art and culture are meaningless. One can lead the other.
Baljit Chadha spearheaded the plan to donate this Inukshuk to India. The Montreal businessman is part of an Indo-Canadian population that is more than 1 million strong and serves as a key link between Canada and India. The focus now, turning those connections into business opportunities.
It's time to diversify. It's time to change and open a vision. I guess maybe we could be a little complacent in Canada. Things have been good too long, but we don't need to wait for a shock to happen for us to reinvent ourselves.
When it comes to reinvention, look no further than India. A decade ago, the country was getting aid money from Canada. Now it's an emerging superpower. The country boasts a $1 trillion economy and a booming middle class, making it a key frontier for Canadian trade efforts. Right now, Canada has 4 trade and 4 diplomatic offices across India, with a new consulate opening in Bangalore this spring. It's a sizable presence. In fact, it's the second largest Canadian diplomatic presence in any foreign country.
We are better poised than other countries like Britain and Australia and others to actually take advantage. And our expansion of the trade-off we opened up and other ones here are all testimony to the fact that the potential here is phenomenal.
Asia's middle class, powered by India and China, is quickly replacing Europe and the U.S. as the consumer market anchoring the global economy. And topping the trade agenda, how Canada can help fuel India's growing energy needs.
If I was to single out one area where Canada and India could have a lot of interest, it's in natural resources, it's in development of food technology, food security. So in a way, food security, energy security are the sort of global subjects under which we can have good cooperation.
But in many ways, the two-way trade relationship has only scratched the surface. The Governor-General's trip to India last month marks the first state visit in 15 years, and it comes as Canada looks to triple bilateral trade by 2015.
The global financial crisis, I think, slowed us down somewhat. We may not make that $15 billion by 2015, but my own view is that really is a modest goal, given the complementarity of the two countries, given the scale of possibilities in India, given the fact that we have about equal GDP, 1.7 trillion in each case. 15 billion as a portion of 1.7 trillion is really modest, and I think we should think larger than that.
This is Dharavi, the largest slum in Asia. More than 1 million people living in just over 1 square mile. But a look inside these cramped, squalid shacks reveals a network of budding enterprise.
10,000 different industries are here in Dharavi, and annual production is around $665 million US.
Micro businesses here are thriving, from cloth printing and dyeing to a full-scale plastics recycling operation.
We collect this scrap plastic from places like hospital, residential area. After collecting, those are brought here and they got sorted out according to the color and quality. Once they sort out, then the sorted plastic, they crushed out in pieces like this. Just your cameras, cell phones, keyboards, monitors are made from this. So only recycle a hard plastic.
Safety is minimal and wages are as low as $4 a day. But residents from poor rural parts of India view Mumbai's slums as a hive of opportunity.
They come from different states of India, from poor state. So Mumbai is a city where people know like you can achieve your dream here.
India's slums are a stark example of the country's paradoxes, a country where wealth and poverty stand side by side. Breaking the cycle of poverty takes more than just funds. For many girls living here in the slums of Delhi, the idea of going to school is a far-off dream. They're expected to get married, and for poorer families, education is seen as an unnecessary investment for girls. But Canadian-assisted programs like the Asha Foundation are now helping to break that cycle of poverty.
Basically, the main thing is marriage, and the second thing is the atmosphere, which people doesn't feel that, the atmosphere is good for the girls to get out.
19-year-old Bharti is defying the odds.
I'm the first one who's going to the university.
First of her family to attend university, she's studying political sciences thanks to mentorship and loan programs through Asha community centers.
They provide books to the student and even the time. to study. Means like we have small houses, so where we can't study that much.
Fundraising by Canadians helps Asha provide space for students to study and access books and computers. Asha's founder, Dr. Kieran Martin, also works with communities to change the perception around education for girls.
I was thinking of to do a job, but then Dr. Kiran said that you need to go to study because after 3 years you must be getting a nice job. The most important thing is degree. Without degree you can't get a nice job.
They're small steps with a big impact. For girls like Bharti, breaking down barriers to education will be the difference between life in poverty and a chance at success. I'm Sneha Kulkarni, and this has been a Sun News special report. This spring, India will vote in a new leader. The election stakes are high. A political dynasty is on the line.
This is a turning point in our nation's journey.
Prime Minister Manmohan Singh is retiring from politics, and waiting in the wings to lead his party is this man, Rahul Gandhi, the scion to the famed Nehru-Gandhi family, which has ruled Indian politics for over 6 decades. But the governing Congress party today is in trouble.
Corruption and Congress have become synonymous in this country.
Allegations of multi-billion-dollar government scandals have awakened an appetite for change. Right now, India is at a crossroads, on the verge of becoming an economic powerhouse. But there are fears corruption is stifling growth. For many Indians, the big ballot box question in this election is which party can stop the culture of corruption and bring prosperity for all. Right now, the right-wing opposition BJP party, led by Narendra Modi, is riding a wave of support. A recent Pew Research poll showed Modi with 63% of the vote. And Modi's pitch is all business. As the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he turned the state into an economic powerhouse.
People may be voting for Modi, but not because Modi is representing a cultural nationalism, only because they are expecting that he'll be able to bring up what you call a faster rate of growth and development.
But critics argue Modi's position as a Hindu nationalist will flare religious tensions. They blame him for the 2002 Gujarat riots, which led to the deaths of more than 1,000 people, mostly Muslims. But Modi denies any involvement, and the accusations have done little to stop his rising tide of support.
This is a unique election in one sense, that this time younger generation is taking a keen interest in the election. This is one aspect, and particularly because of last 5 years, so many allegations about corruption.
And unlike past elections, this one features a wild card, a new third party, Aam Aadmi.
Last many years we see Congress and BJP, we are fed up. So maybe Aam Aadmi party is good for us.
Aam Aadmi literally translates into the common man, and this new party is making political waves as the voice of anti-corruption.
We are not claiming that we'll form the government. Our goal is to get as many clean candidates reach the parliament as possible.
Led by Arvind Kejriwal, Aam Aadmi is a grassroots movement taking aim at politicians facing criminal charges and calling for greater transparency in politics.
If the common man is to have a life of dignity, then the country has to be freed of corruption.
The new third front could be a major vote splitter in this election, a threat to Congress or BJP's bid to form a majority government. And with India's new position as an emerging global power, the world will be watching closely to find out how this election will shape India's future. I'm Sneha Kulkarni, and this has been a Sun News special report.
So this is a miracle that we're watching, and it is so exciting for us to be partnered with this great university and the people of India to help to feed the world.
This crop is fantastic. It tolerates, very heavy rainfall, hard drought, or poor soil. It's perfect for climatic conditions that are changing and for farmers that are poor. We provide the resources, the dollar resources, to the best mind of Canada and India to work together and to find practical solutions to problems that are seen in food security.
There's something called as the micro cantilever technology. You know, you can mass deploy them in areas.
That's whatever. Oh, we gotta go. Okay.
If you can focus. So if we give this kind of a solution, then you can have a very quick treatment decision, and hundreds and thousands of lives can be saved.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
The new Ryerson DMZ launched here at the Mumbai Stock Exchange is playing a very important role in bridging the Canada-India divide. Not only will it help accelerate Indian startups, but also help budding Canadian entrepreneurs gain a foothold in the lucrative Indian market.
If you look at healthcare issues, the innovators will solve that problem. I don't think we're going to solve all the problems by saying that we're going to leave it to large companies and large institutions. I think the world's problems are going to be solved by the youth, innovation, and small companies.
Which are important.
Governor General, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us here in Mumbai.
What a pleasure.
It's been a busy week, a busy few years for you. Since 2010, you've traveled to more than 24 countries for missions abroad. Now, this is the first state visit to India, so why India and why now?
Well, the Indian-Canada relationship is a very strong one. As you know, 1.2 million Canadians are of Indian heritage. That's 1 in 30 persons. So we have a strong people-to-people relationship. And this particular visit has a theme of education, innovation, entrepreneurship. There are a lot of good things that are being done in those sectors between Indians and Canadians, but there are a lot more things that we can do in the future. And so we hope a visit like this will stimulate more of those good collaborative opportunities.
I want to discuss one of the key focuses of the trip. That is, of course, education, a topic you have passionately advocated for many years. So tell me, you've discussed the need to attract more foreign students to Canada. So why is that so important?
Well, first of all, educationally, it's very good for Canadian students and Canadian institutions to have cultures from all around the world being part of the makeup and providing a dynamism and a pluralism to Canadian educational institutions. Secondly, it's a very important business for Canada. At the present time, higher education is our 8th or 9th export in terms of dollars in. In the case of Australia, it's 3rd, and the Australians have done very well on this front, and we would like to do even better. What you find is when you have the opportunity to educate to people from another country, those are ties that last for an entire lifetime and beyond. And trade occurs as a consequence. I often speak of a triangle of education, innovation, trade, with each corner reinforcing the other 2 corners of the triangle. And so you can begin with education and great trade relationships occur.
Right now, both Canada and India are dealing with a shared challenge, and that is meeting the growing demand for skilled workers. So how do you think a partnership and collaboration will help address this problem?
Well, one of the agreements that we witnessed in New Delhi several days ago was between our Association of Community Colleges of Canada and the National Skills Council of India to ensure that what we do, both by way of curriculum and innovative programs and e-learning in skills, could be transferred to India. And when you reckon that India needs 15 million new jobs each year, many of them in the skilled trades, there's an enormous opportunity for Canada to be a partner.
What kind of education shift, though, do you think is needed in Canada to address our own skills mismatch in terms of perhaps the stigma around colleges or even trades?
Trades are wonderful features of the economy. People earn very good salaries and do very important things. And you only want so many doctors and only so many lawyers and so many engineers in a country. One of our colleagues speaks about if you're in an accident in Canada and go to a hospital, you'll see 10 people who have been educated through colleges of applied arts and technology before you meet the doctor. And that shows how dependent we are upon so many other sets of skills. There's a great variety of skills, and certainly the idea that somehow a skilled trade is lesser is simply wrong. The skilled trade makes a very important contribution to Canadian life and to world life, and we want to be sure that they're respected accordingly.
Now, this is the first state visit, but you've traveled to India many times in your role as Vice Chancellor and President of the University of Waterloo. So, over the years, what's the biggest change you've witnessed in the India-Canada relationship?
A big change has been the communication revolution. There's so many more things we can do today that are just revolutionary. It took over 3 centuries for the printing press to reach a majority of the population in Western Europe. The internet has taken less than a decade to reach a majority of the population of the world, and we have a whole new platform from which people can learn and develop their skills, etc. The other thing I would say is that during that period, Canadian institutions have developed very broad accessibility. We're the most accessible country in the world in terms of education. Higher percentage of students graduate from high school and go on to colleges and universities in Canada than any other place in the world. Our institutions have capacity. Our teachers are good. Our education costs are relatively inexpensive. We're in a position now to share that with the entire world.
Governor General, thank you so much for joining us, chatting with us here in Mumbai.
What a pleasure.
Right now, you're on track to becoming one of Canada's most well-traveled Governor Generals. It's a hectic pace, and all of the trips are costly. So what does Canada gain through all these state visits abroad?
Well, number one, we only travel at the request of the government, the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Trade and Development. And we do so because the visits that we go on fit into our overall objectives with respect to foreign policy. Secondly, we travel with a delegation of 4 or 5 or 6 parliamentarians, and then usually 10 or 12 people who represent different facets of business life, of educational life, of research life, etc., who in turn are maintaining and developing their contacts. What we do before we go on a trip is we organize our objectives and the program that reinforces those things, and then we do a cost-benefit analysis to be sure that what we have done, in fact, more than meets Canadian expectations.
I also want to discuss innovation. It's a key focus for you on this trip. So describe to us some of the opportunities that can come by partnering or deepening the partnership between Canadian and Indian expertise.
Well, as you say, the theme of this particular visit is education, innovation, entrepreneurship. There's a wonderful complementarity in so many areas, beginning with the fact that we have 1 out of 30 of Canadians are of Indian origin, 1.2 million people who in themselves are great diplomats in bringing the two countries together. In some particular sectors that are really very attractive, energy security, food security, a great area of complementarity. In infrastructure, the needs in India are very substantial. Canada has a great record in infrastructure financing, infrastructure engineering, infrastructure build-out. So the partnership is a very beautiful one.
I also want to discuss the campaign that you've launched in Canada recently, My Giving Moment. It's a call to action for Canadians to build a stronger community. So what specifically would you like to see Canadians doing more?
What we're attempting to do is to use a social marketing campaign to encourage all Canadians to find it in themselves to give of their time, of their talent, just to develop that instinct of helping one's neighbor. It can be a very simple gesture, like you're going to the grocery store and one of your neighbors is infirm or happens to be ill. You drop in the door and say, "Can I pick something up for you?" Involving yourself in some volunteer activity, using your expertise to help other people. And what we hope is that by our 150th birthday in 2017, when this 4-year campaign is ended, we will change the culture of the country so that every Canadian says, you know, part of being a Canadian is we look after one another. And that becomes a defining characteristic of what a Canadian is.
Finally, I know you're a big hockey fan. In fact, in your younger days, you were a former All-American hockey player, even All 5 of your daughters have learned to play the game of hockey growing up. So tell me, what's the greatest lesson you've learned from sport?
The game of hockey I love because it's the fastest game on earth. It's also a game that blends a virtuoso quality with a teamwork quality. As Wayne Gretzky says, you want to know where the puck is going. So you're always anticipating what you're doing with your teammates. The greatest sports spectacles that I've seen in the last 20 years have been the women's ice hockey teams, Canada and the United States, because they play the game so well. They play the game the way I think it was intended to be played. That was a great moment.
Certainly is a proud moment that many Canadians witnessed. Governor General, thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to chat with you.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.